Listen. Listen to me. That will be the title of this video. Listen to me. I have a concordance. It's a simple concordance. Anyone can purchase one. It has words of the Bible in it. And if you've never seen one, I'll give you some information. They are numbered. The words are numbered. If you get a concordance, the words are numbered. The number for the word listen in Genesis, the number is 8085. And that word is used and found a lot of times in the Old Testament. I'm not even going to attempt to go through many of them, but I do want you to listen so that you can comprehend. That's the problem, is people don't listen and comprehend. They're too busy, I guess. But the first place that you find the word listen being spoken is before the flood of Noah's day. And it was by the words of a man that said, listen to my voice. The man's name was Lamech. He had 2 wives. He had killed 2 people. He had killed a man and a boy. And he said, listen to my voice. That's what he told his wives. That's in Genesis chapter 4. That's where you'll find it if you want to look it up. The next place that you find the word listen is in Genesis chapter 21. Abraham has got a wife, and her name is Sarah. And God is talking to Abraham. It's in Genesis chapter 21. Chapter 21, verse 12. I'm turning there right now. Genesis 21, verse 12. Chapter 21 starts off, then the Lord took note of Sarah, as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah as he had promised. Folks, this is not Jesus performing these things. Do you understand? The Lord is not Jesus. Chapter 21. Then the Lord took note of Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah as he had promised. So Sarah conceived and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the appointed time of which God had spoken. That's what happened. And in verse 21, some things are happening. Not verse 21, verse 12. Chapter 21, verse 12. God said to Abraham, Do not be distressed. Did you know wives can sometimes put some distress on a husband? Even Abraham, in his old age, God said to Abraham, do not be distressed because of the lad and your maid. Whatever Sarah tells you, listen to her. Listen to her. I've almost got to have God tell me that sometimes to deal with said person. Now, where is it next? It's in Genesis chapter 23, 13 and 15. 23, 13 and 15. Now, there's fixing to be a land deal made. And Abraham is wanting to purchase some property. This is purchase property. Abraham is going into town and he's there to purchase some property. And he goes in verse 13. Let's see, 23:13. And he spoke to Ephron in the hearing of the people of the land, saying, this is what he said, if you will only please listen to me, I will give the price of the field, accept it from me, that I may bury my dead. There, he's wanting to buy some land to bury his dead. Then Ephron answered Abraham, saying to him, my Lord, listen to me. A piece of land worth 400 shekels of silver? What is that between me and you? So bury your dead. And Abraham listened to Ephron. And Abraham weighed out for Ephron the silver which he had named in the hearing of the sons of Heth, 400 shekels of silver, commercial standard. I have read that from the Bible. My son, listen to me as I command you. That's Genesis 27, verse 8. Not that much further over. 27, verse 8. Here's 27, here's verse 8. Isaac. We're dealing with Isaac, the promised child, the one that God said that was going to be your wife will bear you a son, and his name is Isaac. Now, we're dealing with Isaac in chapter 27. We dealt with buying land earlier. And he says in chapter 27, verse 8, it's time for a blessing to be given. That's what's happening here. It came about when Isaac was old and his eyes were too dim to see, that he called his older son Esau and said to him, my son. And he said to him, here I am. That's what happens. This is chapter 27. In chapter 27, in verse 8, Now, therefore, my son, listen to me as I command you. Go now to the flock and bring me 2 nice choice kids from there. Now, who is speaking here? Guess who it is? It's Rebekah. It's Rebekah. Who is Rebekah? Rebekah is the wife of Isaac. Rebekah said to her son Jacob, behold, I heard your father speak to your brother Esau, saying, bring me some game and prepare a savory dish for me, that I may eat and bless you in the presence of the Lord before my death. That's verse 7. Now therefore, my son, listen to me as I command you. Go to the flock and bring me 2 choice kids. In other words, she's fixing to cook a meal. You need to listen. And after you listen, what do? You do the necessary and right thing. That's what you do. Now, I'm going to go to the New Testament. We're dealing with listen. We're dealing with listen. New Testament. The New Testament word that's mostly used for listen is number 191. Number 191. That's in concordance. That's where I'm looking. And number 191, it says in Matthew chapter 17, verse 5. Matthew 17, verse 5. Do you know what's happening in Matthew chapter 17? You're fixing to, if you listen to me. Matthew chapter 17 is a very good chapter. If you've never heard anything about Matthew chapter 17, this will be an excellent time to do it. Matthew chapter 17 is right here. It begins, and 6 days later. 6 days later. 6 days later only means one thing. 6 days later. Chapter 17, 6 days later. Jesus takes some of his disciples up to a mountain, and there they meet Abraham. No, they don't meet Abraham. They meet who? Let's see, who do they meet? Elijah and Moses. And behold, Moses and Elijah appeared to them talking with Jesus. And here is somebody going to speak in verse 5. Peter is speaking. While he was still speaking, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them. And behold, a voice out of the cloud saying, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him. I wasn't there. You weren't there. But they were. And God spoke from the cloud and said, this is what? My beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him. In other words, the discussion is over between Jesus and Moses and Elijah, because they're fixing to be gone. But Jesus is not going anywhere at this time. And there you have it. Listen to him. Do you think God was serious? I really do. Now, where do you find it the next time? In chapter 18, verse 16. But what if he does not listen to you? Chapter 18, verse 16. What is the context of this one? If your brother sins, go and reprove him in private. If he listens to you, you have won your brother. If he listens to you. He's got to listen to you if you go to him. And you do what? Speak to him. He will listen to you. But what will he do? If he does not listen to you, take one or two more with you, so that by the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every fact may be confirmed. And if he refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church. And if he refuses to listen even to the church, let him be to you as a Gentile and a tax gatherer. That means you don't love him to death. You do what you've been instructed to do. Jesus is instructing these people. In Matthew chapter 18, I just read that. In Matthew 21, listen to another parable. Jesus was speaking. Listen. Jesus uses the word listen in Mark chapter 4, verse 3. In Mark chapter 4, verse 24, take care what you listen to. That's what it says. In Mark chapter 6, verse 11, does not receive you or listen to you. This is a good one. This will be the last one I look at. The Mark chapter 6. And Mark chapter 7, 14. Mark 7 and 9. It's God speaking. My beloved Son, listen to him. In Mark chapter 6, verse 11. It's a bad thing if the people did not listen to, receive, listen to. Folks, today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts. Please.